The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all of its contents. We live on a placid island of ignorance, in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far. The sciences, each straining in its own direction, have hitherto harmed us little, but someday the piecing together of dissociated knowledge will open such terrifying vistas of reality and of our frightful position therein, that we shall either go mad from the revelation, or flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a new dark age. In its essence, this is about the fear of the unknown, more specifically Lovecraft's fear of the unknown. I absolutely love this quote as a fan of cosmic horror, and I believe it sets the scene of every piece of work that Lovecraft wrote. It could easily go at the beginning of just every one of his novels and be great. The Call of Cthulhu was not the first novel he wrote, but I believe it marked the start of some of his greatest works for sure. One thing I want to note about Lovecraft is he was a mentally unstable individual, no doubt. His views about the world around him and the people in it terrified him. His reality was very skewed, and his works of fiction are subjective to his experience. His father passed when he was very young, and his overprotective mother and her sisters abused him and forced themselves into every aspect of his life. A life they did not let him actually have outside of their house. His mother had a mental breakdown and was sent to an asylum. He wrote this verse after he had moved to New York, a place that he said he regretted moving to. I won't dive much deeper into Lovecraft's life, but I thought it was an important thing to note that he was pretty much scared of his own shadow. Back to the quote. Some say that this is nothing more than a mentally ill man's shallow rambling about new information and science bad. And maybe at its worst it is. But maybe there's some truth behind the prophecy. And potentially some has already been fulfilled. At this point, almost 100 years later, we have so much information about all the stuff he wrote, so much more, like physics and cosmology, and many people just can't understand it or don't want to. Most people are not just comfortable in their ignorance, but hostile to anybody who points it out. The age we live in is governed by fear. Rather than going mad, have we fled from the deadly light into a peace and safety of a new dark age. Science potentially destroying humanity defined a generation of people during the Cold War, and this verse seems to have great overlap with the Fermi paradox and the great filters it proposes. If the great filters are ahead of us, then not voyaging far might be the best idea for civilization. That idea is just a theory, and I would argue not anti-science, just a forewarning. If we discover alien ruins today, and essentially gain the knowledge that the filter is ahead of us, would we go mad from the revelation, or just continue doing whatever it is we do here anyway? That answer is impossible to tell until that actually happens. Certain discoveries very well could lead to our demise, like a superbug or infinitely producing nanotech like gray goo. Maybe it's an AI that wants to harm us and was not built in a box, or found a way out somehow. Or just anything else that we just haven't discovered in the universe. This is not all to scare you, the potential world-ending viewer, into not making that new piece of awesome technology that was supposed to save the world, but rather to dissect a verse from one of my favorite fictional stories. But what even is fiction?